Hey, welcome to Battle Wounds Podcast, and I am your host, Amos St. John. We are in the place to be. Hey. Listen, I have my party by myself, I tell you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever else you listen to your podcast, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Secondly, hit that subscribe button and also the notification. So whenever I put something on, you get first dibs on the release or premiere. So listen, y'all, again, I do not take for granted that you've taken the time to tune in to this podcast and get some information, some experiences to help add value to you and your life and to whoever you are connected to. Make sure you share this with somebody. Let them know that, hey, Battle Wounds Podcast is not just only for men, but it's for just people who just want to hear the experiences and what I may have learned from those experiences and sitting in therapy or sitting around wise counsel. Yeah, at 44 years, I think I've picked up on a lot of things. Now, I still got a long ways to go. So I don't consider myself an expert on anything, but I know that I have experienced a lot of things in life so far and navigated through it in not necessarily, I could say perfect, but I could say a healthy way. There's so many ways to deal with trauma. There's so many different ways to deal with loss, grief, depression, disappointment. There's so many different ways, healthy and unhealthy. I've been fortunate to really apply some healthy ways of dealing with life. Sometimes I miss the mark, but there are many times where I'm thankful for the choices and decisions I've made. So I feel like it's time. I was talking with my therapist, and he was like, Amos, you can't keep all this stuff to yourself. All these things that you've learned, all these principles that you've picked up, you need to share this. So that's why I'm on this podcast. I need to share what I have encountered and overcome. And if it can work for me, it can work for you. Or you can find something that I've learned and learn it yourself, and it can work for you too, And so thank you again for being a part of this journey. It's going to be fun. This has been years in the making. I started this over 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and then the pandemic happened and I took a 3-year break. And so much has happened in life, so much has happened. I wish I can tell it all, but no, I won't. I'll tell you the good part. So I spare you all the agony of what I've gone through and just give you the good part. It gets better. You know what I mean? So here we are today, and I want to talk about something, and it could be a little sensitive to many. And it's on the topic of abuse, being taken advantage of, abuse. So this is maybe a little trigger warning. This may touch a little sensitive areas. I'll be very be aware, of that, and I will continue to. But I really feel that the lessons from this can help and will help. It helped me, and so here we are. I want to basically title this "No More Abuse." I'm gonna say it again. No more abuse. I'm getting straight to it. Working with Tim Ross, throughout the years, he gave a great, I don't know if it's a definition, but a explanation of abuse. And he broke it into 2 words: abnormal usage. Abuse. A-B, use. Abnormal usage. Abnormal usage. And he was kind of speaking on a topic that I'll speak on later, but that stuck to me because abuse is definitely abnormal. All of us at some point, I hate to say have been used. Ugh, that sounds so negative. But yeah, we work for an employer. We work for, we help our family, we help our loved ones. So there's some level of usage. But when it becomes abnormal, that's when it becomes exactly damaging. And I really want to talk about this. I felt a burden about this because, as I peruse through the internet, I can see so many people are hurting. I can see so many people are trying to project their pain through a post, and they try to disguise it with good words or comedy or something. But for someone who's gone through, trauma and abuse, I can see through it, and I wanted to talk about it. I may not be able to cover a lot so much. I believe, again, this podcast is here to stay, so we can come back with a panel of people to talk about different things of abuse. But the first thing I want to talk about of types of abuses that I want to address and help you overcome. Okay? I'm going to talk about 3 types of abuse that I hope you can think about and learn if you're going through, if it catches your attention. Hopefully you can help yourself to overcome it. And so I'm just going to talk about 3 types of abuse. The first abuse is self-inflicted abuse. Yes, self-inflicted abuse. Yes, self-sabotage. I think that's a form of abuse. Something's good is happening, and you have that fear of, in therapy, he talked about, Amos, you got to be careful of, you always have this fear of the piano dropping. What he meant by the piano drop, I don't know if any of y'all have seen the Roadrunner and the Coyote. And every time the Roadrunner is running and the Coyote is just standing there, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a piano just falls and just collapses and just stops the Roadrunner, the Coyote in his tracks. And my therapist was like, you have this, when all these things are going well in your life, you always have this fear of the piano is about to drop. And so it's just life. You go through trauma, you go through disappointment, you go through all you go through in life. You build some level of anxiety, and you don't feel like you deserve the good things to happen in your life. And so you feel like at any moment something's going to happen, and I'm just going to just deal with it. I'm disappointed, pre-disappointed. Before the disappointment happened, I'm just going to be pre-disappointed. So I'm just going to sabotage a good thing, a good friendship, a good deal, a good opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, that's abuse. That's abnormal usage. You know what I'm saying? That's self-inflicting abuse. Stop it. It's time to overcome that. I know, sit with your therapist. Sit with someone that is trusted to help you unpack some of the reasons why you deal with that self-sabotage. Many of us are connected to some great opportunities, some great people, but won't fully embrace it because you're afraid of the piano dropping. I get it. It's happened, and it happens. But it's time to overcome it. It's time to overcome it. You need to become your biggest advocate. That's one tool to help to overcome that self-inflicting abuse, that self-sabotage. Become your biggest advocate. And I only could put myself out there, I think for me, in many years, I am one that can stand up for someone who is experiencing injustice. I will defend and be an advocate for someone who is experiencing abuse but when it comes to myself, oh man, I would take a hit and keep on ticking and just take it, you turn the other cheek and go through all the abuse and go through all the persecution, you know what I'm saying? And it's just so unnecessary. I have learned that I need to become my biggest advocate. That's one of my mottos in 2024. Become your biggest advocate. Defend yourself, protect yourself. Do not allow yourself to subject yourself to being abused and devalued and dismissed or disappointed. You know what I'm saying? Establish that rule. I will become my biggest advocate. I will no longer stand in the middle of the gunfight and take bullets for someone else, risking my own health, Now, if it's your baby and it's your child now, we got to do whatever it means to protect our loved ones who can't defend themselves. But there are some times we are walking into self-inflicting abuse. You can't blame it on anyone else. Can't blame it on any other situation. You created it. I created this abuse. This is the damage that I placed on myself. It has to stop. Amos, it has to stop. The self-inflicting, self-sabotage, that abuse has to stop. It's hard. It's so hard because, yes, I've gone through the disappointment. I've gone through the trauma. You don't know what I've been through. Yes, I understand. But you are precious. You are valuable. You are needed. You are seen. And it's time to stop the self-inflicting abuse. Love yourself. Take the time and look yourself in the mirror and say, I love me. I need to work on being happy for me from within. You're talking about from the inside out, from within. Yeah, external things help. Yes, I would love to get $1 million in the bank tomorrow. That would make me happy. That would give me joy. But when it doesn't happen, I'm still going to find happiness and joy. Because you know what? I'm valuable. I am the diamond in the rough. I am the jewel. I am valuable. I am the prince. I am the king. I'm a queen. I'm a princess. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever applies to your situation. Understand your value and stop the self-inflicting abuse. Overcome it. One step, one day at a time. Second thing I want to talk, this is another abuse. It's relational abuse. Again, this is trigger warning. This is a sensitive area. Now, when we get into these relationships, whether you are seeing someone or you're married or, just an occasional fling, whatever, there are different levels and tiers of abuse. And we can expound on that for hours. But I just want to just talk on the surface. That emotional abuse that you are subjecting to with your significant other, your friend, your spouse. You know what I'm saying? I know there are layers to this, but the first step is recognizing that you are in the midst of a not good situation. Because sometimes we are in it and not knowing that we're in this abusive situation. Get help. Turn to a loved one, a trusted friend. And I know it's hard to find a loved one or someone that you can trust. So you feel, or you're in this thing alone. And I'm talking from a male, and a lot of women will look at me like, well, you don't look like you've been through abuse. Girl, homie, bruh, if only you knew, And so it happens on both sides. I know when we look at abuse, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether is psychological, there is abuse happening on both sides. And it's hard, especially for men who go through it. Who wants to be like, hey, I'm being abused or taken advantage of? We'll look like, we'll look weak, And so a lot of men suffer in silence, whether they're in marriages, whether they're in relationships, or we're dealing with family members. We deal with the abuse in silence because we don't want to look like we're emasculated. We don't want to look like we're weak or, we're not true men, can't take any hits. But no, there's a lot of men out here are taking hits and are hiding it, and they are in pain. They may escape with drugs or some bad habits or some secretive life that nobody knows of to escape because they can't talk to somebody about the abuse they've experienced. And I believe that, as a man, there's a way out. There's a way out. As I unpacked a lot of what I've gone through with my therapist and trusted circle of accountability, I was able to look at it because I didn't think it was abuse at first. I just thought it was like, hey, man, I'm just taking in the chin and just keep it going. But no. When abuse leads to being devalued, not appreciated, not honored, not respected, that's a problem. When you are in a relationship or a connection or a friendship or in a family dynamic where you're not valued, you're not respected, you're not appreciated, you don't feel chosen, you don't feel looked, you feel overlooked, you don't feel seen, that's not good. And so I think that's the first thing. Do you recognize yourself being in that sphere, that environment? The second thing in that, once you recognize where you are in it, find a way to address it with a trusted professional or a trusted loved one or a ministry, if you are connected to a church, there are ministries, there are hotlines that are out there that people you can confide to address this abuse. If you are in a relationship or family or dealing with some environmental issues in your life, whether it's in your home or your workplace, that's probably going to be my next step I'm talking about, but I want to just kind of just really introduce that, you know what, it's time to overcome it. It's time to start addressing it. And it takes time. It takes time. That's not, as I speak in this 20 minutes, however, it can't just snap a finger and it's over with. This is a process. But whether you're male or female, you are not in this alone. There are people here that can walk with you and help you overcome the abuse and heal from it. There's brighter days ahead. Things will turn around once you take the necessary steps. Easier said than done, I understand. But there's help there. Just trust me, there is help. And finally, I'm a musician. I've been a musician for 30 years professionally. And I've worked in churches, organizations, for different brands, and traveled with artists and stuff like that. And so, this last area of abuse, I want to take my time on this one because I see it happening, and I see, especially in these churches, and how there are so many musicians, singers, worship leaders, and former employees. They've dealt with so much abuse. They no longer believe in God. Because you're in a church, what would you think that's the last place you would experience being taken advantage of? I myself, in 30 years, I've experienced so many layers and so many different stories of abuse. And a lot of it I allowed. I did not establish the correct boundary because I didn't know. I just thought, hey, I'm working for church, be humble, But no, there are people out there that take advantage of people, and because they're in positions of influence, position of power, and it's not right. But I'm noticing when they say life, karma, and you reap what you sow. There's a lot of people I'm seeing that are reaping a lot of the stuff that they sowed, taking advantage of so many people that were helpless or they were vulnerable, and and they used their position, their power to lord over people who couldn't do anything about it, and that's not right. But as we see with our own two eyes, that things come full circle, and we have to be careful on how we treat people we work with, that we are over, that look up to us. When we are in a position of influence, whether you are in church or are in corporate America, or you are here in the film industry or the music industry or the tech industry, however industry, if you're in the positions of influence, we have to be a good steward, good manager of the influence we have, the power we have. When it says, in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, with great power comes great responsibility. We cannot use that power to abuse other people. That's a life right there that will never be the same because we took advantage of that person. And so I see all over the internet people who are just bleeding, and I'm not saying figuratively, but or literally. I'm just, they're hurting because they experience being taken advantage of, abuse, abnormal usage, whether you're in a church or a workplace or a home or relationship or even yourself. And it's time to address it. It's time to heal. It's time to be better. There are brighter days ahead. I know, even here in Dallas has been gloomy, and so it's hard to say it's a brighter day. Yes, there are brighter days. But it takes a one step at a time, one moment at a time, one conversation at a time, one journal at a time. Like, these are steps to help you get out of it, and start addressing it. Like, what? I need to heal. So when the new opportunities, when new doors are open, when I'm in this new job, or when I walk into a new place or a church, or, you can be healed and you can look at it from a different lens. And also, you have kids. If you have kids, you don't want them to grow with this weight. You don't want to just to create another generational chain for them to carry when they're growing up because you grew up with unaddressed abuse, unaddressed trauma. And that's what this podcast is about, battle wounds. We battle so many things in life, publicly, privately, and we are wounded. But the one thing about wounds, you can address them. You can attend to them with the right resources. For me, when I've dealt with abuse or abnormal use, it took me years. It took me years to get to the place where I was like, I've had enough. I will no longer subject myself into environments, relationships, anything that will allow me to be abused, abnormally used. Now, there's two sides to every coin. Here's the self-aware Amos. Now, I may be a person that has abused a situation or abused a person. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But I have to be aware that someone may look at me like, "Oh, you did this to me," and I had to, and so I have to bear that weight. But I constantly deal with the inner work. I look at myself to become a better person. So there's two sides to that. I don't walk around saying I'm perfect. I have my ways. I can be a jerk. I could be moody. But one thing I never do is just lord my power or influence on people to get my way. Even with my daughter don't even play that with me. Even though she look, I'll be like, dude, is she looking at me like, what? So it's just like sometimes we take it on our kids and try to lord our power, and our kids looking at us like, man, sit down somewhere. But yeah, I constantly work and make sure I am not the abuser. That's what that self-awareness is. And so, yeah, life happens, when you're having a bad day, you don't know something you've done may, or not have done can hurt the people you are in your, you know what I'm saying? And so that sometimes you got to check yourself. Am I the abuser? Even though I think majority of this podcast, I talked about being abused, but there are cases and facets where we can be the abuser. Time to look in the mirror. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm speaking to myself too. We hold each other accountable. Have your circle of accountability. A lot of us are scared to just open up and share with someone and confide to someone. Understood, but you have to find help. Resources are there for you. It's time to heal. It's time to overcome. Now, no more abuse. That's what I said. No more abuse. You're in a new year. No more abuse. It's time to rise up. It's time to stand up. It's time to blossom. It's time to morph from a caterpillar to a butterfly and evolve. No more abuse. To yourself. Establish the boundaries in your relationships, in your jobs, or wherever you are, to no longer extend to being abnormally used, abused. It stops. No more abuse. It's time. You need to walk in wealth, in health. He said, health is wealth, I say. So it's time to walk in that health, in the fullness of it. It's time to walk in that joy, in the fullness of it. It's time to walk in that peace, in the fullness of it. But it's time to make that stand, draw the line, no more abuse. I am no longer subjecting myself to be abnormally used. Man, I'm telling you, we're going to get this right. We're going to get this right, y'all. I believe it. We're going to get this right. No more self-sabotage. It's time to establish some healthy boundaries. The power of no. That 2-letter word is powerful. N-O, no, I cannot do this. That people pleasing, just doing things, knowing that you don't want to do it. No, I can't do it. Respectfully, I just can't do it. It builds resentment. It builds bitterness. It builds so much. I hate to say the word cancer, but it just builds this. It builds these bad seeds that blossom into ugly things. So no more. Set that boundary healthily, respectfully. I will no longer allow myself, subject myself to be abnormally used, abuse. No more abuse. So that's what I have for you today. This is what I wanted to talk about. No more abuse. It's time to overcome it. One step at a time, one day at a time, one movement at a time, one positive thought at a time. No more abuse. You're going to love yourself for it. You're going to be, I'm telling you, it's not pretty going through it, but once you get to the other side, when you turn into that butterfly, when you metamorphosizing from the caterpillar to the butterfly, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when you awaken to who you truly are from the inside out. Ah, man, health is wealth, y'all. Oh man, we can chase the money, we can chase the fame, we can chase the notoriety, but if your health is not intact, all that stuff is in vain. Man. I tell you, man, this is going to be good. Well, listen, leave a comment. I love the comments. Oh my gosh, leave more of those comments. I'm going to do more interactions. I may go live on Instagram a few times, on YouTube, just to kind of get some conversations going. And I'm working on my list of guests. If y'all have a suggestion, leave it on the comment section. I'll read it, or send me a DM on one of the platforms and I'll read it. But I really want to help people, add value to people, help people overcome wounds from the things they battled in life, especially men, especially creatives, musicians, singers, pastors, preachers, spouses, of musicians, spouses of preachers, spouses of singers. They go through stuff because it's like, as creatives, we're very wanky, wild. We're just can be a little weird. All of us got a little Kanye West in us. No, I didn't mean to say that. I'm not saying that he's crazy, but he's amazing at what he does. But yeah, when he gets out of his element, he's definitely out there. And so every creative have a certain element that's just not normal. But that's what makes their genius. And so yes, that leads into difficulties. And so this is the platform. Battle Wounds is a platform. We are all going to talk about this. We're going to have a safe space to address it and get tools and resources to walk away knowing like, okay, when I get home, I have this to hold on. Me, on my phone for 2 years. I've been in therapy for 2 years. I'm taking a little break. I'm actually walking out all the stuff that I've learned in 2 years. But on my phone and other areas, I have notes upon notes of what I've learned. And anytime I need to go back to those resources, I go back and I'm remembered. Oh, yes, this is on this particular subject. This is the notes I have, resources. And so a lot of what I've learned, I'm sharing with you. And these stuff are practical. And so Battle Wounds Podcast that's the platform I really feel that God has placed me in to help creatives, men, women, people just who are here looking for a positive outlook in a very difficult life. This is what this platform is about. So listen, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Battle Wounds Podcast. I'm your host, Amos St. John, and remember, health is wealth. Until next time, I'll see you.